Varus is left open. With Gragas being banned, the choices here are between Varus and Jace. Jace being that flex that honestly Evil Geniuses haven't been finding too much success with. It's been going towards Jojo a lot more frequently. So I think Varus is a little bit more of a consistent pick that has been working up for FBI and Vulcan. So that makes sense to me. They still have 2 seconds here. Let's see if they swap it. No, it stays on Varus.
When you have players like FBI and Vulcan with a great mind for the game, picks like Varus are something that you can rely upon for the way that they can execute on that utility to not just set up themselves, but the rest of the squad and get that lockdown and a lot of the compositions bringing forth the poke damage that it offers too.
Exactly, it's that flexibility. Because when they're looking across 100 Thieves side and they see the Sion, it's like, wait a minute, okay, we're going on hit.
Yeah.
But depending on what 100 Thieves go, if it's just Sion and the rest are rather squishy, then maybe they go poke build. I think I've seen a little bit more poke build from FBI than not, so let's just see. That's the Sion coming out once again. Last time we saw Kaisa this time.
Oh.
So it's going to be a little weaker in lane going up against Varus, but I think 100 Thieves have been pretty good at being able to play back in losing matchups and calling for closers' help whenever it's needed.
A response to EG really squeezing down on that pool, but someone like DoubleLift that is very experienced in bringing different looks to the teams he is on and able to play in that way even when you're looking at a situation where you might not always have the grand disadvantage.
Yeah, and I mentioned the Sion a little bit. We saw earlier today just that Sion creativity that 100 Thieves had, the dive that happened bot lane, TPing top, obviously hurt Tenacity a little bit, but that set DoubleLift rolling and having such a great game. So that's something that's going to be on the top of EG's mind. The only counter that I see to that one is, of course, when you know that you're being late invade on blue side, is to just probably get a TP down there to defend. Want to see what Evil Geniuses look for if it's just a standard Sion game. That's a Ksante being rolled out from Evil Geniuses, though, so pretty beefy front line from Evil Geniuses and holding 4-5 for Jojo.
Yeah, that Ksante alongside that Sejuani for that beefiness. And the Lounge was talking about the identity that Tenacity has been donning in recent games, playing weak side, being a tank for the squad, and that also being in response to the way that 100 Thieves have been lifting up players like DoubleLift to enable him to carry.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of one of the biggest tickets for 100 Thieves. When I was talking to DoubleLift and Busio in that interview about like what has been the key to winning a lot of their games, they mentioned a lot of things, but one of them has been comfort. And a lot of their games have required them to play easy front-to-back compositions, a lot of attention going bot lane, Tenacity on a tank. It doesn't have to be Sion, it's on either a Gragas as well, and bot lane being on Xayah Rakan. They lost to Xayah, but they still got the Rakan, which has been the best support that Busio has played so far. So far, pretty good comfort levels there from 100 Thieves, but it does make their composition short-ranged with the Kaisa. So 100 Thieves, I wonder what they actually round out their draft with Ashe Band going into 4-5.
Especially if they are leaning into that comfort and continue
Yeah.
to do so with the rest of that comp. You know, 75% win rate on this Rakan for Busio, 4 games on the pick thus far. Do they want to enable the rest of the team in the same way? Or how does EG respond now that all the bans have been dished out by 100 Thieves?
So the bans that 100 Thieves have went for have been like lane harassers like Heimerdinger and Ashe. Evil Geniuses, Vulcan's probably historically his best pick that I've seen a lot of is the Thresh. We've seen Thresh do quite well for Ayla earlier today. Then we could probably go for Nautilus, which has been the staple pick against the Rakan. So you can go Nautilus, you can go Leona. They still have the choice going into 4-5. For 100 Thieves, on the other hand, still need to see a mid laner coming in from Bjergsen. So that one is a little bit tough for me with, I'm trying to think of what his options could be, but Viego is something that 100 Thieves have gone through to the past. It's closers.
That Lee Sin being previously banned out closer has other picks he can turn to for that carry potential, for that pop-off opportunity within the fights in the late game and really setting up the squad. But I do want to see what Vulcan ends up locking here from that support position. Ashe being banned away, even though that's a pick that's already trying to get phased out because of her treatment within recent patches.
Yep.
And players like Vulcan loving to lean into the engage, it's no wonder you're going to see more of the Thresh coming out.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw the Ashe earlier today, even if it wasn't successful, like, the nerfs really only... Okay, the big nerf was the higher cooldown on your ulti. 10 damage on your volley, though, isn't that big of a deal. It's still playable, but it seems like, yes, it's back to Thresh meta, which is exciting to see. Taliyah's been the pick here for Evil Geniuses, so they are going to be looking for fights, creative ways to start fights with Taliyah, Weavers, with the Thresh hook. So there's a lot of ways to start fights for Evil Geniuses. It's going to be a good one.
That creativity being so important in the way you do approach on the Taliyah. I think some of the best Taliyah players, it is all on that ultimate and really separating the rest of the team. Maple, for instance, having done so, but a bit of a response. 100 Thieves was holding on, waiting for their time to lock in that mid lane pick for their side, and now it's Bjergsen coming on through on the Lissandra.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Lissandra in some time. This is going to be fun. With how often we've seen 100 Thieves rolling with the same kind of drafts, the fact that we get to see Bjergsen in something new is refreshing, and it's going to be against JoJo's Taliyah. So good amount of setup. The 2v2 mid, for me, is going to be important. Sure, from Evil Genius's side, you have the Sejuani there for Inspired, who could look for something with Taliyah on that setup. But Bjergsen's Lissandra could always delay time with her own ulti, wait for Viego, also combo off her ulti on the Taliyah first. So I think there's a lot of ways for 100 Thieves to play out the 2v2. That's something that you can investigate on your own on that one, but he's going to be regretting his words on that one.
There's always a guy on Reddit.
Hey, don't make bets, guys. You can't back up.
Maybe some early contention here
Until minions spawn.
with EG. I mean, JoJo on this Taliyah, I think, will be so crucial in seeing where he brings that roaming power, seeing how he and Inspired can affect the rest of the map for sure.
Yeah, and I am still expecting both junglers to play towards bot lane from closer's perspective to relieve a lot of the pressure that you'll be getting from Varus. Maybe even getting a good counter gank there. That's what he's kind of done last week, where a lot of people expected him to be player of the week because of his counter ganking performances. Evil Genius is looking for a invade, not happening here though. So good luck. A little bit of cheese that we've seen from 100 Thieves level 1s throughout the day, so wanted to be aware of that, but they're all in vision.
That ward previously dropped down by 100 Thieves side, gaining that intel of where most of Evil Geniuses are currently clumped, so no early action between the two, and very much a response in their rotations to the previous play styles of these teams.
Yes, I will say though, because of that level 1, to catch out if there was an invade, that did mean that Tenacity got to pull the wave a little bit there, so that's going to be lost experience for Ssumday. Good positive thing for him is that he didn't expend TP for it, but he's going to be losing a lot more, so good start for Tenacity here.
Ssumday now making his way on up, walking across the ward. Tenacity lying in wait for that entry after pushing that advantage in the top side before his fellow opponent had come to join him.
Yeah, the desk to talk about it. Just the community in general about Evil Geniuses. We all expected them. We didn't talk about their playoffs run a little bit too much because we kind of expected them to land at third. So the fact that they're in a position where they can be in 5-6 in the lower bracket because of the 0-3 week is crazy to see. And I do want to see just a better performance from the team. So let's see, 3 camps clear from Inspired. Got a good ward here just in case closer was to be on vision, looping around for a bot lane gank, and he's going to be clearing the top side. So it's a full clear for both junglers.
And that's where, even though I know that many are surprised to find Evil Geniuses fighting in this position to be in the top of the playoff bracket or below, there's also a part of me with Evil Geniuses that always kind of feels like, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Especially with playing from home currently. We've seen with this squad, even when there are other members that have changed out on the roster, you still have Inspired, you still have JoJo, you still have others that have been through that ebb and flow, that have had a rough regular season and then know how to turn it on in playoffs. So as long as they're keeping in mind the areas in which they want to improve, the same way that 100 Thieves was isolating their early game when they made that big turnaround, then I have confidence that they'll be able to have something coming into playoffs, as the play up top is what we're seeing as the first focus for closer, which ushers the flash away from Ssumday.
There's a punish right there from Ssumday, so no flash there, and he was already behind to start. So this Sion is really set up to succeed. No!
Oh, flash for flash and cleanse and all. First blood granted to FBI in the bot lane.
That is tough. And a stacking wave too. So that's going to be a lot being denied here. A little bit of movement from JoJo and Inspired, but that's just to get scuttled. They were thinking about a possible dive on Busio. That was not going to happen, so we didn't get to see the startup to that one, how badly that kind of turned out. So good to FBI and Vulcan. We expected the early advantage there, but it turned into a kill.
Solidifying it for themselves, and It's one of those things where if they don't get that advantage when you're looking to have that aggressive play in the lane and that dominance, then that turns into a loss for yourself when 100 Thieves have put themselves in a position to be okay with having some of this pressure on them, but not necessarily kill.
Yeah, let's take a look at this to see how this all happened. Meanwhile, top lane's a bit of a party, but so great hook. They double down, but DoubleLift takes a lot of damage, including Ignite, and they're committing to it. So yeah, that was just Busio and DoubleLift trying to push for that 2v2 as the wave on their side was stacking. So really tough one.
The early aggression from Evil Geniuses in this lane, and Vulcan flashing forward to get that flay to really deliver that kill into the mouth of his bot laner.
It's just nice to see Vulcan on Thresh and the engage meta really now coming back to his favor. Wave stacking here, 400 Thieves. Closer is here.
Closer and Inspired. Control from both sides dropped on down. And Inspired zoning off the opposing jungler here as Closer wanted to make an entrance onto the bot lane, but both are just alleviating some of that pressure from the constant contention when you have these engaged potential supports.
Credit to Inspired there is isolating bot lane to be pretty comfortable on their own, don't have to deal with Closer here. And so that makes it pretty hard for DoubleLift and Busio to fight back from the constant poke there from Varus and what should be Evil Geniuses now targeting Dragon. If you're going to be getting pushed from mid on Jojo, which I think should be secured, and slow push from FBI and Vulcan pretty consistently, it's going to be safer now, Inspired, to start stacking up Drakes.
And a minimal gold lead somewhat building for Evil Geniuses. I mean, Inspired on the Sejuani having an early presence already, but gearing up towards the later stages to offer that supportive tanking ability for the rest of the squad. Meanwhile, no true focus on Dragon just yet. A lot of it has been on trying to get vision. It's another play, another response, and coming through with the Lantern, keeping up the pressure from this Evil Geniuses bot side. Busio is low. The hail here for the burn is good. Jojo with the Weaver's Wall to flash under the turret, maintains the kill. The tower shot's gonna take him out though.
Got him.
Busio, one last hit from FBI, and lots of blood drawn over on the bot side.
Little unlucky for Jojo not to be able to get the second one and die, but still, bot lane right now in dire straits for 100 Thieves. I was thinking it was just gonna turn into a dragon. No, it's really snowballing here. And there's not much for 100 Thieves to do. Just looking at their composition, it's pretty focused towards bot lane. That's where their damage is coming from. So that being their next to soul win condition, they're really gonna be playing on the back foot for the rest of the game.
It's one thing when you know you're going in with not as many tools available to you, but when you're facing off against Vulcan on this pick and the way he's able to maintain FBI's pressure in the lane for the kills, but over on the top side, Ssumday, now the subject of more attention from Closer. Again, a flash forward to get it. Closer with the kill. Very rewarded for the return pressure after getting that flash previously.
Yeah, it's nice for Closer to be getting something on the top side, but this is just bad for 100.
Oh, and Inspired's in for the play, flashing on again. DoubleLift looking for the shots onto Vulcan, but completely zoned off. FBI racking up the kills, 3 in the pocket already.
Yeah, and the mistake started from Busio, a little trading on to Vulcan, being in close range enough for a play, and Vulcan recognizing this is about the last play. Walking forward just to know that they can catch up to Busio if he's trying to escape, lanterning FBI back into it. So it's like, I think Vulcan is having an outstanding performance, and it's a lot of just because of Busio's mistakes. So now it's turning into something that 100 Thieves just need to be a little bit more creative. Focus is going to be on Rift Herald, but depending on EG's movement, and they are moving to try and fight for it, 100 Thieves need to play for bot lane pressure. They need to be trading plates. They have DoubleLift top lane here, so they're committing.
A bit of a flip, and Ssumday making his way down towards the mid lane, also with the support presence. Starting to see that unlock of Busio and Vulcan on these supports that can be playmakers across other lanes. And I think that attention, Raz, that you were giving to Vulcan in his play thus far is very valid. Vulcan has been a great support for a long time.
Yeah.
Back on his time of Cloud9, ever since he's been on EG. But it felt like sometimes conversation around him was shadowed by the core JJ discussions that have happened of years past, or others that had that notoriety in a different way. And now seeing him in this shining light on an even more emphasized level, getting those props from other players I love to see the attention shown to somebody who has deserved all the recognition through his level of play. As a Rift Herald, though, response by 100 Thieves right now, though, to alleviate some of the pressure that was previously granted.
Yeah, I think EG could fight for this, but they moved to have Ssumday pick up some gold, especially since he was a little bit behind earlier on. So he's going to be able to take turret plates, deny minion waves from Tenacity. He was also just at a TP disadvantage there, so it didn't make sense after they made the rotation. So that's going to be the call that they're making, and then just looking to just defend the Rift Herald play that 100 Thieves would be looking for next.
And 100 Thieves for Bjergsen, building up some of that farm, a little lead because of the time Jojo was spending rotating to other portions of the map. And the thing about when you're looking at what Lissandra is going to be able to do, the ultimate itself with the Frozen 2, when you're considering what the Ring of Frost can do, you not only have that protective capability for yourself if you have that target, but really locking down isolated individuals like FBI, a Varus that could get caught out.
Exactly, and that's the key. Picks. You just need to find a pick. I think if you're looking for anybody, it's going to be on Jojo, but he has Cleanse, so that's going to be tough. So double Cleanse from Jojopyun and FBI is just going to make Bjergsen's life a little bit harder. But my eyes are just going to be on Closer. I want to see where he ends up placing the Rift Herald. In my eyes, should be to get a little bit of gold back into DoubleLift's pockets. If that's not possible, as you can tell with Inspired, for a bit of the game hovering around FBI and just trying to stop DoubleLift and Busio to get anything going, then just go for Bjergsen. I think trying to get him a little bit freed and a little bit of gold in his pockets to make that reality you're talking about, him being in a position to find picks for his team, a positive. So let's see, seems FBI is moving mid lane, so they do want to fight for this, but I think they're a bit late.
EG making the wraparound. Closer sticking to that dragon as closely as possible means it will be picked up for 100 Thieves. But even all the while, ahead of that, with that dragon spawning, they had sent DoubleLift back down towards bot to not only be in the vicinity, but getting some of that farm up to be able to be a threat, because FBI clearly such a focus for EG to keep him online right now.
Yeah, and I just think these are mistakes here for Evil Geniuses. The fact that they weren't positioned for Dragon should be quite illegal for 100 Thieves. The Rift Herald part, even if you're trying to get gold back into Ssumday, you're still playing for FBI and Vulcan, and the fight is just better for you. So seems like either just mistakes in where they're placing their top laner or just rotations, or them just trying to get more gold into their players' pockets and valuing that over Drake. So let's just see where Busio and Closer end up looking. Busio getting caught.
Oh, Vulcan and Ssumday lying in wait. Busio, when you got things like a battle dance, you can zip on out of there, was able to keep the sums at least too.
And take a look at where Closer's heading. Trying to hide himself top lane, find himself into the lane bushes. So the goal is correct. He is going to be putting gold into DoubleLift's pockets on that one. So that is going to be nice, but if they commit for too long, Sejuani's going to be in the area.
Jojo keeping up that pressure over on the bot side, matching off against Tenacity, and that Rift Herald coming on down from Closer. Already some of the plates had been chunked, but there is the response from Evil Geniuses attempting to offset this, but the charge is good. Vulcan making his way swiftly through the river, so now the 3v3 over on the top side, nothing to collapse upon.
Yeah, and I think the intent was to put the gold in DoubleLift, but I think the fact that EG defended this well so Closer is the only one that benefited from that. Trying to push EG out of the river.
Yeah, Busio and Closer sticking so closely to DoubleLift that entire time. Even when Closer is venturing forward to attempt to get some poke onto the members of EG, they make sure to not unlock themselves from their carry. But with that, the gold, pretty even. It started to mount a little bit for EG's side, but because of that Rift Herald drop, keeping that contention going between these teams.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You're contrasting this game to games that we've seen just last one, C9 versus Flag Quest. That one was really fast-paced. This one, the stakes are really high. You either fight for third or you're in the bottom bracket. These teams do not want to make the mistake that pushes them out, especially if you're looking at it from the perspective of EG that have been making a lot of mistakes. They're trying to play it slower, but their gold advantage has started to whittle. So that is, for me, what's concerning. 2 minutes until the next Dragon, you have to believe Evil Genius is fighting for this one.
That level of playing from a place of comfort is applicable on so many levels. When Fudge was on broadcast and was discussing, is comfort the direction that players go when they're in these final moments, when things are on the line? And he says, absolutely, and that applies across the board, but that also applies to that in-game decision-making. Maybe you're playing a bit more reserved. You're not going for those risky plays. You want to keep everybody focused on the fundamentals to follow through, because this is the difference between having a second life in playoffs.
Exactly. And you can already see here, Closer hovering for Busio and DoubleLift, just making sure there is no play. They don't have eyes on where the Sejuani is. But this is the window. There's no ward here for 100 Thieves to catch Inspired going through the tri-bush. This is the play they're going to make. Vision is going to be caught on Thresh here, so good on DoubleLift and Busio to catch this. Oh, unless if they get canceled.
Channeling coming through, and you can see DoubleLift and Busio saw the blue lines coming forth, the box thrown down. Busio wanting to make sure he keeps EG at bay as long as possible, giving his life on over, using the heal in the process. EG get the pick they're looking for.
Caught red-handed. Closer was there, base thinking that his bot lane was fine. Not the case, and with Dragon coming up in 50 seconds, Vision is going to be around the riverside for Evil Geniuses. And they get first turret, so like, or at least spot turret. So now, really comfortable, and you're in the position of Evil Geniuses. I like the trade here for 100 Thieves. They're going to be going for Rift Herald. But you can kind of see, if you're looking at the minimap here, that Evil Geniuses do want to deny this. They're in mid lane trying to fight for mid lane control so they can hover. This might be another case of them just being too late.
Again, yes, that full movement forward, but a little offset with that timing, whether it was the objective they were looking to contest or the fight afterwards. EG aren't able to find the window that they're looking for. 12 seconds until the dragon spawns as well. No vision having been positioned from either team just yet.
There's an engage happening between Tenacity and Ssumday. 100 Thieves are gonna support them, but Ssumday is gonna be fine. This is, a left!
That's what you're looking for, any kind of brew. Knocking in and knocking up. Closer, the kill onto Jojo. Inspire flashing over the wall, and FBI also on the retreat. The death sentence is good onto Ssumday. Knows that this ain't it for him getting out. Triple kill for Closer. The Viego pop-offs, we've seen it before from Closer. Will we be seeing it mounting today?
But what an engage from Busio's Rakan is able to net a great hop up there. And so Jojo and Vulcan die nearly instantly. That was looking really bad, and I like what Evil Geniuses are doing. Try and push him away from mid lane. Dragon is coming up. We have control. But no. 100 Thieves take another great engage. And now that's going to be second Dragon for them. When they were behind for a good majority of the game, now they have a near 2K goal lead and second Dragon in the pocket.
Multiple call-outs across the social media spheres for Closer's Viego.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a draft objectively versus thinking of the players piloting them, this is one of those picks.
And so he gets out just in time with the hook. That was what they were looking for. But look at that beautiful knockup from Busio. And 100 Thieves are on them like that. And that's the scary thing about this. The engage that 100 Thieves have and the follow-up there from Bjergsen's Lissandra. And so, at first, I was a little interested. I was like, okay, Sion ulti down a little earlier on. I thought that was going to hurt 100 Thieves. Not at all. Now 100 Thieves are in the driving position.
And really did a great job of driving out some of the most important people on EG's side in that fight. As soon as FBI is away from it, what are you going to do without that damage that EG has been protecting so long? Immediately popping Jojo at the start of that as well as the first kill. So removing the tools very effectively from Evil Geniuses so that 100 Thieves could amass the victory in the fight, and thus the Dragon to follow after. A double stacking thus far for them, and a gold lead that has been stretching past 1.5K.
Yeah, you mentioned also, just pointing it out, community was on it as well. Closer has just been on something for the past few weeks now. He has just been lighting the league on fire, and now he gets his Viego, and the game's looking really comfortable for him. I think he's been playing this game out even before that team fight quite well, hovering for DoubleLift and Busio, and even though teams going up against them recognize that, you look at the draft and you know very clearly that's the game plan. It's the team fighting that has been good for them. Something that they've been struggling with all split long has been working, but here's another skirmish.
Closer trying to get another kill to make that 5, and Busio going for the knockup as he has done again and again to set up the plays, but Ssumday is here to stay. The Weaver's Wall for the separation, the root and the kill, and the stasis from Jojo. Vulcan goes down. 100 Thieves wanting to come out on top of the fight again, but DoubleLift marked down low. Ssumday isolating him off, and now Inspired and Ssumday are on the retreat. So despite the defeat of the bot lane of 100 Thieves, they still have the 2-for-3 trade coming out on top.
Yeah, and I mean, Busio stayed alive for so long.
Going for it on Ssumday some more. Flashing away. You can see that double back for a second from Inspired, wondering if he has to get back into it, but now knows that he can leave Ssumday on his lonesome.
Yeah, that TP that Evil Geniuses had doubling down on the fight was the scary part. They're still looking for more. I don't think they'll get it, but Inspired is confident.
Fast movement from Inspired, wants to find the angle from the riverside.
TP from Jojo.
Got Jojo coming on in. No ult for the separation, but does tell us not. The flash from Bjergsen, root onto Jojo, and Closer coming from way downtown with the rest of the squad. Jojo and Ssumday can't find a lantern to get them where they need to go, but coming on through as Tenacity starts to frontline for everyone else. Busio, you have to be so careful when he comes in with that battle dance, because the lockdowns that he's get, the setup to follow. Ssumday coming to get so low, and there's the unstoppable work of Closer coming on in with a Heartbreaker and beyond, stacking them kills on kills and kills. A little bit of a thrill when he gets low there on the HP, but manages to survive.
Even that chase down from Evil Geniuses, the TP coming in from Jojopyun to try and get something, sure. They get the shutdown gold on Bjergsen, but still worked out better for 100 Thieves on the back of that end of that. 8 kills now from Closer. Let's take a look at that. So this is way back from the start there. So yes, they were trying to find a pick on towards Vulcan. That's a nice E there from Jojopyun to stop the engage from fully committing. I thought this was great from Ssumday. Try and isolate Busio. Stopwatch came out perfectly. And this is where it gets really dicey for Evil Geniuses, because Jojo got burned immediately. And so from that point forward, you're losing a carry, and Busio, who was the initial target, was just alive for way too long. This is the chase down coming through from Jojo's side. And even though he's able to get the shutdown on towards Bjergsen, if you could see Rakan and the Kaisa coming in, they're going to be able to join the fight and just re-engage on Jojo and get the kill there. So I like what Evil Geniuses are doing from behind. They're still trying to be proactive and find a play and see if the tempo's really doomed from 100 Thieves side. They were just wrong.
And it's difficult in those longer scraps when you're using something like the Weaver's Wall on the earlier engage, and then those tools that could make the difference when you're going for that chop off to try to kill Bjergsen just a bit faster before the rest of the team comes through are no longer available. But as you called out, still keeping that mindset at the forefront for Evil Geniuses. 100 Thieves extending their lead though, 3.2k. I mean, that KDA for Closer just looking so scary. That's a lot, but Evil Geniuses, it's been the entire time where Varus has had the most gold. That Immortal Shield Bow, while not enough in the last fight, still offers a bit of that protection as 100 Thieves take the dragon now.
So the Closer part reminds me of seasons past, where the moment you start hearing playoffs come closer and closer, Closer just turns on. He turns into a different beast, and this is no different. So really want to see how the next fights go. The only tougher part is if you're trying to find a win con for Evil Geniuses, they're just not tanky enough in comparison to Tenacity. Tenacity is just going to buy more time. The engage options that we talked about in draft being there is just always going to work out from the side of Rakan, the Lissandra. We're kind of harping on this, but like they have multiple points of engage. So even if they use one bit of resource, like the Tenacity ulti that happened in the topside fight, you still have more in the tank. So going to be really hard. And now our gaze is kind of turned towards Baron, 23 minutes into the game. Maybe we can get a sneak from Evil Genius, but you already see 100 Thieves on the top side of the map starting to set up vision.
Not enough time for EG to be able to make a play there just yet. So they do back off. It's that fight for vision currently as 100 Thieves make that rotation in for the establishment, getting themselves a scuttle here. Also worth noting the teleports being available for all of the solo laners.
And this is the toughest part of the game. When you have on Soul Point, you got 3 dragons in the pocket. Oh, Evil Genius is looking for a pick.
Well, Closer has to heartbreak out of there. So Evil Geniuses getting out one ultimate, but the scrap subsides after that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're finding their own Fnatic bushes. They're just trying to find any cheesy way to get a pick. And so, the best teams in the world, when they find themselves in this position, setting vision up towards top side, clearly have 3 Drakes, you can just plant yourself mid lane, pressure towards Baron, and force Evil Genius to decide. Because let's just say if Evil Geniuses get 1 Dragon just because they're trying to stop you from getting the Soul, you're already started up on the Baron, so you can already see 100 Thieves in position.
Part of that value of 100 Thieves early stacking, Busio.
TP coming in from behind them.
Getting that sight from Inspired. Multiple TPs being activated as Tenacity and Bjergsen make their way through. Inspired setting his body between Jojo and the rest of the team. They've got plenty of resources available to them. A death sentence onto Busio, a knockback, a stun, have to get on out of there. So now one of the main points of engage for 100 Thieves has already been expelled.
Yeah, clear dangers running into a choke point there. Evil Geniuses punish them, and maybe they can get a mid turret for their troubles there.
Oh, the lockup onto Tenacity, a play from over the wall, and Evil Geniuses
got him.
Pursue. Got the long downtown pull in from Vulcan, but all the while a separation from DoubleLift has to flash to get on out. Bjergsen picking up the kill onto Vulcan. Closer, he's looking for the backline onto Jojo, but Jojo goes into the jungle side. Inspired, flashing over the wall. Now Ssumday brought down low, but can still make the stand alongside the rest of the team. FBI channeling up a Q to see who he can find. But no cigar, just a support killed off from Vulcan. All of those flashes just ripped away in that fight.
That was really close. DoubleLift, in particular, I thought he was gonna die. I don't know. He was in a tough spot, so he did burn both Sums and ulti to get the hell out of there. That was a close one. I thought Vulcan was doing a great job getting multiple hooks on towards Tenacity. One of them, that flick from Jojopyun, just missing out. Could have been a lot of damage and putting them in a good spot. 100 Thieves, even though they came out a little healthier there, not comfortable going for Baron with how low DoubleLift is now. 1 minute and 30 seconds now on Dragon. 100 Thieves are camped up topside, but that's what we were talking about earlier. They have pressure towards topside and forcing Evil Geniuses to decide.
And that Baron is still just one of the major objectives that you have to be most concerned about at this point in the game, because there's still a full minute before that next Dragon spawns.
Yeah.
And we did mention before the fact that 100 Thieves stacking those early 3, it gives them a bit more of that opportunity to draw pressure on their side of the map.
There are some cute plays you can do when you're in a position like this, having 4 people from 100 Thieves, delaying Evil Geniuses with a dance around Baron, while the person who can make, like, close the distance fastest is on Dragon. Usually it's like a top laner that has that with TP. They don't have TPs available, but they're actually just gonna pull it here. They are on vision, so that's gonna be the tough spot. But the point of engage has to be Busio. So if you're EG and you're fighting into enemy vision, you have to be tracing where Busio is standing. If he's in a line bush, dot bush, if he's in somewhere that you just can't find, you have to be a little bit patient.
Even in that last fight where it was very close, it was because Busio had gotten chunked out for pretty much in the first half, and 100 Thieves had to play around that knowledge of the lack of support.
That's why Vulcan's job's the hardest. He's the one that has to try and either flay, hook. He's been doing a good job earlier in the game hooking Busio out of that spot. It's actually going to be Bjergsen who's going to be in a creative spot. He is caught out and pushed away.
The shove from Jojo. So ultimate coming through from Bjergsen to keep himself in it. 100 Thieves have to turn away from the Baron. They lose their mid laner, and now they're running into the blue side of the map. A good play onto Tenacity. That's still a lot of HP to burn through. And Closer, using the Heartbreaker, ends up getting shut down by Ssumday. DoubleLift with the response, though. 2-for-1 trade so far as Tenacity isolated from the rest. Double kill for the Evil Geniuses top laner.
And FBI being alive means that's Baron for Evil Geniuses. That crucial mistake from Bjergsen, not getting out of there when he's control warded out, made it so that was just an easy fight for Evil Geniuses. You'll see on the replay, if we end up getting one, that DoubleLift just could not hit too short range in a pretty tough position to even hit. All he was touching was Sejuani there, so Evil Geniuses finding a crucial pick, getting Baron, and now Dragon's still available. They need to be able to fight for it. That's why they're TPing back onto the map.
Evil Geniuses wanting to continue off the pressure of that play. Ssumday going all out, not just to get the Baron, but 1,000 kills in the LCS across his career. and seeing if they can break into what 100 Thieves was building up as such a gold advantage and such control over on this bot side objective. And we're in that soul territory, baby. 100 Thieves clustered up.
Important points to take out is that DoubleLift, Bjergsen, and FBI, no flashes here. So it's going to be difficult. They have to be really careful with their positioning. See Sion and Kaisa coming in from the flank.
Some flashes available for the opposition, Jojo and Vulcan being one of them. Evil Geniuses surround this dragon and burn it down. 100 Thieves can't afford to give one up, but this breaks into the stride of their building.
Yeah, I mean, Evil Geniuses, this is just their first dragon. So it's actually a better decision here. That's the one thing that I've given 100 Thieves credit for in their prior games, especially their one versus TSM in the first day of the Super Week, was that, well, they were super far behind. They decided to give up objectives to try and find a way back in. This is what I was talking about, of course. Kick on towards Bjergsen. They nailed him right when he came back up. Didn't have flash anyway, so it's not as if he can get out of that position. And just take a look at DoubleLift here. So he's in an even harder position, 5v4. Who is he going to hit? It's a really tough spot. So all he really is just autoing Inspired there. But most of the damage was done already. Here comes Busio.
Oh, under that, there's push up from Evil Geniuses. Jojo falling to the wayside, and 100 Thieves punishing them off of this push. Do they want to continue up? Bjergsen going in with the E. Hits the watch to go golden. But such a chunk down onto multiple members on both sides. Ssumday, for instance, standing behind the rest of his team. But 2 members lost from Evil Geniuses. They did take down that turret in that push that was happening under the replay. And then off of that further force of aggression, 100 Thieves pushing back.
Yeah, as you mentioned. Missed a little bit there, but little concern there. Evil Geniuses actually could have just played a little bit slower, had top lane outer turrets still available. So that's going to be something they're going to be kicking themselves over, or even just trying to ward out for Busio's engage. Busio has just been really stellar out of lane here. Even though the early laning phase was difficult, his team fights have been spot on. So great to see that. 100 Thieves now from they were pretty even, now a 1K goal lead and still at soul point. 3 minutes until the next one. Just trying to find fights like those where now FBI with no flash can be the target again.
31 minutes into the game, there will be more opportunities for fighting that way to find that target. And Evil Geniuses, when looking upon their past successful fights that led to the Baron, that led over to the Dragon, it was very much them being rewarded for having this Sejuani with Warmogs and a lot of these melee champions that weren't giving DoubleLift the angle that he needed to be able to finish them off. So that's a condition they can continue to lean in when the time is primed correctly. But 100 Thieves clearly knowing how to respond when there's a bit of that step forward, a bit of that overcommitment to the advantages that had previously been granted, and thus the lead still stands in their favor when it comes to gold.
Yeah, I think a crucial purchase that just happened here is that Jojo is able to get Banshee's Veil now, a little bit more defensive. FBI has been pretty secured even without flash, just because of that huge shield that he's able to get from Bloodthirster, Shield Bow. Of course, we've already talked pretty extensively about the rune choices that get you the shield that you have. So right now, FBI is pretty comfortable. We'll just have to see how the next fight's set up. And if Jojopyun, that purchase on Banshee's Veil, is the one that helps him out there. It's going to be easier now dealing with Bjergsen.
Could be the difference maker. We've seen a couple of these fights where Jojo unfortunately gets popped earlier on because of the collapse of 100 Thieves. Closer often looking for that target with the early display of the Weaver's Wall to set up for Evil Geniuses, and once those tools have been drawn out, 100 Thieves have been on the punishing end for them. But still, now that you have that more protective capability with the Banshee's Veil, EG might have some more confidence going into the future fights.
Whew. I mean, this is just a tense game too.
Yeah.
It has that playoff vibe because so much matters here. So it's one of those things where you expect there to be a little bit more from Evil Geniuses, I guess, to be a lot more fiery. Do not want to make that mistake. Now, got pushed through mid, are trying to fight for vision. They have, I think, yes, a control bush, a control ward on line bush. So they're going to be happy dipping in and out of there. Doesn't seem like 100 Thieves care.
Not so much. 45 seconds to go before a final stand around that Drake has to be made. And All the while, Jojo coming up from that bot side to rejoin the rest of the team in case 100 Thieves decide to enclose upon them.
Few things to look out for. Closer has stopwatch, Ssumday has stopwatch. They're going to be a little bit more willing to take the fight. Busio's coming in from a flank and getting stopped.
Got teleport and Busio here onto Ssumday, who's now been separated. Closer going into stasis. Aru onto Tenacity, but Vulcan has fallen alongside FBI. Inspired soon as well. A little bit of a shove from Jojo, but it's after the rest of the team has already been dismantled. So Ssumday and Jojo on the retreat from 100 Thieves. DoubleLift getting so chunked, but it doesn't matter. He's the one with the numbers advantage for his squad now. Weaver's Wall used here for the exit as 100 Thieves can secure the soul.
Yeah, I really want to see that fight one more time. My eyes were on Busio because he was the one that was looking to start the fight. It was Closer that was getting picked out. He bought a lot of time though, and so Inspired, FBI, gotten completely destroyed there. That's soul now for 100 Thieves, and they're darting straight for Baron.
They're looking for it to get it claimed. Now with the Ocean Soul under them, giving them that much more sustainability in the fights against evil geniuses. Vulcan has now respawned. Jojo and Ssumday sticking on the map, stepping up to the Baron, seeing if they can make a play. A stun onto Bjergsen in the back of the pit, but a secure of the Baron by 100 Thieves. Vulcan coming over the wall for support, but 100 Thieves don't have any need to go further than just taking the Baron.
Yeah, I got Baron backing away. Don't want to get baited into a fight, especially with evil geniuses darting straight towards to back up a potential fight. So yeah, that's been completely blocked out. That's nice to see. Thankfully, we get to see this part of the fight. So yes, my eyes were on Busio here that was looking, but Ssumday did a great job stopping him. Do want to see how the fight was started. It was with Tenacity and Closer starting the fight. And yeah, that was a lot of lockdown onwards Closer. Actually, a really clutch stopwatch from Closer there. I think the ulti from Sejuani was going to hit him, so he did buy a lot of time there. And that was all it really needed.
Sometimes time, baby, time. It's all you need to get the rest of the team on the same page. So 100 Thieves, that goal leaping mountain, baby. 4.3K for themselves, still working with multiple buffs now. 2 minutes more on this Baron for them, and EG starting to get some of the display. Busio still looking for the angle. Bjergsen zoned off by Inspired. But DoubleLift also very key to keep eye on here, standing behind the frontliners of his squad for the moment to encroach upon evil geniuses, but they have no forceful need to do so right now.
They're doing no damage to Tenacity.
Yeah.
They're literally, he's just walking up to them slowly. That was close. And he has completely pushed them out. Now they're putting deep vision on towards the red side jungle and forcing evil geniuses to walk through so much vision to catch them out. Actually focusing now towards bot side turrets, so it's gonna be a really tough one for evil geniuses to try anything. Vulcan is looking. Inspired is right now just trying to find an engage angle in a bush, but every time they have been hunting, 100 Thieves have been there to match.
100 Thieves have kept this split across the bot lane and the mid lane for that turret take on bot, but because of how difficult it is to break into what is the tanky Tenacity, there wasn't much necessary from 100 Thieves to keep him backed up to have that mid push be good. That turret has been whittled down previously, so as soon as 100 Thieves get an opportunity to take that tier 2 across mid, they'll feel pretty comfortable in doing so.
Yeah, let's take a stock of shop right now. LDR being picked up there from the DoubleLift will be nice. It's going to be a lot easier for him to punch at Ssumday and Inspired now. They are setting up towards the top side of the map, so this is what evil geniuses have to deal with. A hook onwards Closer will be nice. No stopwatch there. But Tenacity is doing
hard with Tenacity. Look, Q from FBI ain't do nothing. All these autos ain't do nothing. Tenacity can just eat up so much from them, and EG now using the Weaver's Wall to separate. They're fully focused on trying to protect these objectives since there's only 5 more seconds on this Baron buff. Minimize the advantages that have been granted by the purple for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, they're just backing away there. They did have a Baroned up minion wave that was coming up topside, so the Weaver's Wall wasn't that helpful actually. But it seems like Tenacity and DoubleLift basing. I think the call is for Bjerg to probably finish up his Rabadons here. He's really close to it. That would make it so much easier. Mikhail's from Busio. Don't know when he finished that one up, but it's going to make life so much easier to deal with the hooks and the ulti from FBI.
It's so difficult for Busio, though, when, yes, we're commending him for the impact he has had to set up 100 Thieves in these fights.
Yep.
But Evil Geniuses has definitely read that as well, and you can see players like Ssumday, like Inspired, trying to focus on taking out that enemy support at the beginning to get better access to the largest threats. But that's why Tenacity is so key, and also trying to create that room for Busio, who can then create that room for the rest of the team, who then Closer can go in. Just a nice chain sequence from 100 Thieves in a lot of these scraps, which is why they are at 5.5k gold lead currently, and still expanding their pressure across these lanes.
I'm just finding it difficult for Jojo to really live in these fights. Now he has Flash, so that's going to be a little bit more helpful, but DoubleLift is just going to aim for him. If there is any bit of CC that will set him up, he could just dash right in and take him out, and that's going to be so hard for, you know, for this team to be Evil Geniuses to be able to find anything. So let's see. Dragon coming up in 55 seconds. 100 Thieves do have control of line, but just Rivers as a whole.
And DoubleLift just did finish off that Bloodthirster ahead of this fight. Maybe some extra capability of sticking into it to ensure that 100 Thieves can gain control on the right. Advantage opens. Tenacity now getting some of the slam down, but Ssumday falling low. Land to come out to pull one. A charm onto do. Busio going to the back line. The response of the box. Busio does fall, but there's no top laner for Evil Geniuses. Closer looking to stack them on up. DoubleLift getting the kill for himself. It's 100 Thieves out on top. It's 100 Thieves with the ace against EG.
Team fight after team fight, 100 Thieves have just been destroying Evil Geniuses, and it starts with Tenacity and Busio starting that fight up and ends with DoubleLift taking them down. That will mean 100 Thieves move on, going up against CLG, and that's Evil Geniuses now stuck bottom bracket.
A sigh of relief from DoubleLift and the members of 100 Thieves as they, you know, now have to keep some extra class against this EG squad on the stage.
Yeah, a lot of love there between the teams. Whoa, hey.
Some shoving on the stage.
Yeah, there's a lot of adrenaline on the side of 100 Thieves there. No respect.
100 Thieves. What a split they have had. It has not been an easy journey for them to earn this top 4 in playoff seed.